as we want happiness and do not want suffering, even for a moment. Equally, each and every sentient beings wish to be happy and do not wish to be suffering, even for moments. Even that is the case, but we continue to, due to our karma and delusion, we continue to experience suffering. And we continue to lack the true happiness. In the same way, equally, all sentient beings continue to suffer and they to continue to lack true happiness. And the sentient beings are protectorless, doesn't know what to do, and looking at us. Hoping for us to help. So therefore, we cannot just ignore, pretend we don't see it, and totally neglect it. And only be concerned with just ourselves. Now is the time that we need to help and benefit other sentient beings. Otherwise, we can never be able to help and benefit others. Therefore, our wonderful evil sentient beings are free from suffering, cause of suffering. May they be free from suffering, cause of suffering. I myself will lead them to I myself will free them from suffering, cause of suffering. Myself. I wonder if they will have happiness and cause of happiness. May they have happiness and cause of happiness. I myself will lead them to the happiness, cause of happiness. And not only temporary happiness, but ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. But at the moment, I cannot lead them to that happiness because I myself is lost in samsara, driven by the delusions. And just like themselves. Therefore, I must achieve the fully awakened or fully enlightened state as soon as possible, so that we can lead them from suffering, cause of suffering, free them from suffering, cause of suffering, and lead them to the ultimate happiness. And in order to achieve fully enlightenment, we need to actualize the 5 paths and bhumis. And for that, we need to engage in the practice. In order to engage in the practice, we need to be reminded of the practice. And we need to continue to leave imprint by listening and continue to learn and study. For that very reason, purpose, that I'm going to listen, engage in reflection, contemplation, and discussions. May all of this activity be cause and conditions to achieve fully enlightenment and liberate all sentient beings and lead them to fully enlightenment. Okay. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened beings, perfect in knowledge and with good conduct, Sukha, Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to become teacher of God and human beings, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya claim, I prostrate, make offering and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sukha, the Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to be tame, teachers of God and human beings, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya claim. I prostrate, make offering and go for refuge. The founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide for human beings to be tamed, teachers of gods and human beings, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya flame, I prostrate, make offering, go for refuge. 사시베게 조신 메토 라마베라발레시 옌데겐바디 상계신두 미대우와이 누그나마다시마 쉐파쇼 이당그라나만달라가니아하야미. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Shodan Soge Sonam, Chanju Badu Danega, Dagi Shoshegi Besonam, Dola Benje Sangye Duva, Sangye Shodan Soge Sonam, Chanju Badu Danega, Dagi Shoshegi Besonam, Dola Benje Sangye Duva. So again, everyone, welcome back, and again, thank you for joining today. And last week we discussed about the starting of the practice of high capacity. And within that, then cultivating the aspiring bodhicitta and taking the aspiring bodhicitta vows. And within that, there is the preparations, and then the actual practice itself, and the end. And we've just finished the actual practice itself, that is cultivating the expiring bodhicitta, by meditating on how all sentient beings have been our most precious, kind mothers, many, not only mothers, but many times each of them. And having become mothers, how they were very kind, recollecting their kindness and cultivating the wish to repay their kindness. And having cultivated in those three factors, cultivating the true sense of love. And through that true sense of love, then cultivating the great compassions, the wish to liberate and free them from suffering and cause of suffering. And due to that great compassion, then cultivating a special attitude or supreme attitude that not only you wish to see them from suffering and cause of suffering, but taking oneself responsibility to free them from suffering and cause of suffering by oneself. And induced by that special insight, then cultivating expiring bodhicitta, aspiring at the wish to achieve fully enlightenment in order to free all sentient beings from their all suffering and cause of suffering, and aspirations and the wish to lead them to the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. So cultivating that bodhicitta mind, aspiring bodhicitta mind, and then taking the aspiring bodhicitta vows. I think so more or less kind of we have completed that part. After verse number, we finished I think verse number 11 and we are on 12. So then in terms of the completions or the end, then once we have cultivated aspiring bodhicitta and having taken the aspiring bodhicitta precept of the vows, then you continue to practice the bodhicitta mind so that it doesn't deteriorate, that we doesn't lose the bodhicitta mind. We have to continue to practice. It is not enough just to cultivate aspiring bodhicitta. And then it will stop continuing to practice. Then again, that would degenerate, over the time. So in order to make sure that it doesn't degenerate, we can practice not only not degenerate, but in order to increase and improve stronger and stronger and higher, then we need to practice, and engage in the practice of the method, that we don't forget the bodhicitta mind, that we don't be separated from the bodhicitta mind. So then in order to make sure that it doesn't degenerate, the bodhicitta, aspiring bodhicitta mind that we have cultivated and the vows that we have taken, so that it doesn't degenerate, then we have to continue to practice, meditate, contemplate on bodhicitta again and again by remembering and recollecting all the great benefit of the bodhicitta mind. When we are able to remember the bodhicitta mind, the benefit of the bodhicitta mind, then we will be more inspired we will be more inspired to continue to practice. And so therefore, it's important to recognize, understand and recognize the great benefit of cultivating such aspiring bodhicitta mind. And so that for that, then in terms of that, then, there are benefit that they explain in the two different sutra sources, And so here, Adisha is explaining the benefit as it is explained in the two different sutras, in two different source of sutras, So one of them is in the sutra of the areas of the trunk sutra, so that is one of the sutra, and then the other sutra is sutra requested by the Viradada. So those two sutras, as it's mentioned in the verse. So verse number 12, it says the qualities of developing such aspiring art, such the benefit or positive qualities and virtuous qualities, or the benefit of cultivating or generating such an aspiring bodhicitta mind is fully explained by Maitreya, in this particular sutra, in the area of the Trunk Sutra. And so in that sutra, Bodhisattva Maitreya is explaining to another Bodhisattva, is called Shunu Norsang. So he explained, Maitreya is explaining to the Bodhisattva Shunu Norsang about all the great benefit of cultivating such bodhicitta mind. And in that, he gave many different examples, and more than 200 different benefit in that sutra explained, So in one of them, it is in that sutra, it explains, Maitreya explaining, son of the lineage or the daughter of the lineage, the aspiring bodhicitta is like the very seed of all the Buddha's qualities, So in explain, it is in that sutra, it is explained. One of the examples, it says that bodhicitta mind, aspiring bodhicitta means like a seed of all the Buddha's incredible qualities, all the incredible, excellent qualities, and so forth, with many different examples. And so again, if we read that sutra, then, then we will find more if someone is more interested, So then verse number 13 is continued that here, having learned about the infinite benefits, of the intention to gain fully enlightenment. So one should learn and study those incredible benefits of that aspiring bodhicitta mind. One should learn. And how should you learn is by reading the sutras, these sutras, One of the things is by reading this sutra, the area of the Trunk Sutra. I don't know whether it's translated in English or not, or, there are many other sutras, scriptures that you can find the great benefit of the bodhicitta mind. For example, you can also read and study the first chapter of the Shantideva's Guides to Bodhisattva Way of Life. The Guides to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, but the Shantideva, the first chapter is on the benefit of the bodhicitta mind, aspiring bodhicitta mind. So again, that is how you can, with reading this sutra or listening to it, or even we don't read it, again, listening from the teachers who explain all this great benefit from the sutras and the commentaries by the great Indian masters and other great masters, So again, some of the benefit, and explained by Shantideva, and all those are what Shantideva explained is rooted in the sutras, Mm. And then you can also listen to His Holiness teachings on Bodhicitta, and also, so as, His Holiness Lama always explain with his own experiences, when you have that bodhicitta mind, you never lose hope. You never become hopeless, because that bodhicitta mind gave you such a confidence and courage, no matter how difficult the situation might seem, it will not overwhelm you and make you kind of depressed, make you hopeless, all of that because of bodhicitta mind. And His Holiness always says, that is what keep him, from all these challenges, not overwhelming him, but continue to walk in his path to be benefit to others, And he's also, because of, bodhicitta mind, very healthy emotionally, mentally, and physically, His Holiness give credit to the bodhicitta mind for him being healthy, also physically, and when the doctors actually, check him, they have said his organs and his all of that looks 10 years younger than he is, and he looks much younger than his age, you can see, except for his knee, that is the only knee, that is, so that is because of that bodhicitta mind, and as Shantideva says, as the Kunu Lama Rinpoche, who practiced the bodhicitta his whole life, and as His Holiness Lama Tsongkhapa Rinpoche, as they all say, if you want to be happy, practice bodhicitta. If you want to make others happy, practice bodhicitta. If you want to help yourself, practice bodhicitta. If you want to help others, practice bodhicitta. If you want to have a temporary happiness, practice bodhicitta. If you want to have ultimate happiness, practice bodhicitta. And if you want a physical good health, practice bodhicitta. If you want an emotional, mental good health, practice bodhicitta. And as all the Katamba master says, and as is explaining also Shantideva, there's no powerful practice to purification than actually practicing bodhicitta. There's no powerful method to accumulate merit than practicing the bodhicitta. Shandeva said, it's like the fire at the end of the, time. There is explanations, how the world come to the end through the different elements. Sometimes it's destroyed and come to the end due to the fire element. Sometimes it's due to the water element, earth elements, wind elements. And when that comes, the fire element, when it is destroyed by the fire element, the heat of the fire at that time is like the heat of 7 suns, At the moment is 1 sun, in this we have the heat increased to level of 7 suns. And that completely kind of, consume the whole planet, and destroy and come to the end. Such a powerful fire or heat. Similarly, just like that, the Bodhicitta mind is like that. He give that example, and the Bodhicitta mind that can destroy all the negative karma, no matter how big, with that kind of Bodhicitta mind. So therefore, it's incredibly powerful tools to purify. Incredible powerful tools to purify. Also is a very powerful tools to accumulate merit each moment, each second. And again, he give example. Again, those all the teaching he gave is rooted in sutra, such as those sutras. Again, he come with a giving a reason. For example, if someone is having some kind of headache, and if truly from your heart, out of compassion, if you wish that person to be free from that headache, by having that such a compassionate thoughts, wish, you create great merit because of that compassionate thought, because of that great thought and wish that you wish that person to be relief of that one person to be relief of that headache, that one problem, one suffering the headache. If that is the soul, then he says, imagine if you wish to be free of 10 people's problems, then it's multiplied by 10. If you wish 100 persons' problem to be relief of 100%, then it's 100 times, and 1,000, 100,000, millions and billions and zillions. And not only one problem. So when you have Bodhicitta mind, you not only wish to be relief of one person's problem, you wish the Bodhicitta mind wish to be relief of each and every sentient being's, countless sentient beings' problems. Not only one problem, countless problem of individual countless people, sentient beings. And that is how, so you create the virtues of merit as equal as that number. So it's countless. And then, as again he mentioned, the moment you cultivate the Bodhicitta mind, your small act of feeding a water to the bird become the practice of Bodhisattva. That act become the practice of Bodhisattva. That actions become cause and condition for enlightenment. So such are incredible Bodhisattvas. The benefit of that Bodhisattva's mind, attitudes, aspiring Bodhisattva is countless. So the more we contemplate on that, the more we'll be inspired to continue to practice and meditate. The more we continue to practice and meditate, then we will be able to keep it from degenerating and deteriorating. Like everything, you have to continue to do, otherwise again, you go back to your old self, until you reach certain point. When you reach certain point, the good thing, the good thing is when you have developed realization at a certain point, then there is no coming down, there is no looking back, and then you can fall down from there, But until we reach that point, then we have to continue to practice and meditate, And sometimes it's not easy for us to continue to practice and meditate. Sometimes we get, uninspired, lazy, we don't have the enthusiasm, we don't have the joyfulness, we don't, and so then, sometimes we don't practice. And then slowly, it started to degenerate. Isn't that the same with every practice that we do? You don't feel like you do want to do practice, you are not inspired, and so forth, and we become lazy, and we give up one day, we don't do practice one day, slowly it becomes 1 week, and then slowly, more than 1 week, and then again, it's very difficult to restart, But if we continue doing practice all the time, then, then it becomes easier. And to be able to continue to practice, then what you need is inspiration and enthusiasm in that practice. And what can lead us to have that kind of continued enthusiasm and inspirations is by remembering, recollecting, and by understanding all this great benefit of positive qualities and great benefit of such inspiring bodhicitta mind, So that is why, so here, verse number 13, by reading this sutra and listening to a teacher, okay, arouse it repeatedly, so you try to, in your mind, remembering, recollecting, and arousing all the incredible benefit and positive qualities of that bodhicitta, aspiring bodhicitta mind, to make it steadfast, so that the bodhicitta mind that you have cultivated, generated, is steadfast instead of degenerating, deteriorating. The way to do is that. So that is one from one particular sutra, and then from another sutras, where it's also talk of benefit, of course, also here, Adisha is taking example from just two sutta, but of course, it is not only two sutta, the benefit of bodhicitta explained in many other sutras as well, but these are some of the main sutras. And then for verse number 14, it says, the sutra requested by Viradada, one of the practitioners, followers, so in the sutra requested by that, fully explain the merit therein, again, in that sutra, the explanation of the benefit of the benefit or positive qualities of the aspiring bodhicitta, fully in so many different ways, in so many verses, But here he is saying at this point in summaries, but Adisha is saying I'm not going to go in all details because it's going to be long, because this text will be too long. So he said he's going to just take 3 verses from that summary of that. In this point, in summary, I will cite just 3 verses. So without going in detail each of them, but he will just kind of in 3 verses from there. And so what are these, in those 3 verses? If one possesses physical form, the merit of altruistic intentions, So if the benefit or the merit or the virtues created by that aspiring bodhisattva, if it has a form, it doesn't have form, but if it has a form, physical form, then would completely fill the whole space and exceed that, even that. So, the moment you generated 1 second of that aspiring bodhisattva, you create merit and virtues as equal as more than the whole space. If it was in the physical form, the space will be too small. The space will be too small. It exceeds that space. That is how big, how magnitude virtues and merit you want to create by 1 moment of cultivating bodhisattva mind, by 1 moment of bodhisattva mind. So imagine if we have that bodhisattva mind, not only just 1 moment, hours, days, weeks, months, and whole your life, how much virtues, how much merit we continue to create. And then another example, giving with another example, is if someone were to fill with the jewels, so, jewels, precious metals, such as diamond, gold, silvers, lapis lazuli, all those very precious metals or precious jewels, all kind of that. As many Buddhas feel as they are in the grain of sand in the Ganges. So Ganges is the biggest river in India, biggest river that go through one place long, and of course you can see how many sand grain that is in that Ganges. It is, we cannot count. It's countless. According to some commentary, it also says it doesn't necessarily means that actually river Ganges itself. It could also means oceans. So whatever, basically, how many ever sand grain there is, as equal of that Buddhas, if someone make 2 offerings of those precious jewels to the Buddhas, that is equal as the same grain of the river Ganges. So, which is countless. You cannot even that. Then how much merit one will create, to offer the protector of the world, so the protector of the world, the Buddha, Buddha felt as equal as river Ganges, sand, grain, and then, in each of Buddha field, then there is equal of that much of Buddha in each of those Buddha field, and then making the offering to them. How much merit one creates is unbelievable, cannot be expressed. We cannot express by words. We cannot count by words. such is merit one creates, such is virtues one creates by making such an offering. So then this would be surpassed by the gift of folding one's hand and inclining one's mind to enlighten for such a limited. So that kind of merit that one creates can be surprised, will be surpassed by, with a strong faith holding your hands together and then cultivating, the bodhicitta mind. Such limited means even for a second. Cultivating the aspiring bodhicitta mind, even for 1 second, create more merit than the merit that is described, that merit that one create by making these precious jewels to the Buddhas, countless Buddhas in countless Buddha field as number as the grain of that. So unbelievable. Sometimes it's beyond our mind. It's inconceivable. Sometimes it's better hard to believe for us, isn't it? When you see like that, it just blow our minds, and just think, is it really possible? Is it really possible? We started to wonder, is this exaggerating? If we are creating such a merit by one moment, where are all our merits? Sometimes do you wonder, Well, first of all, at the moment, we haven't really cultivated aspiring bodhicitta mind. We are trying to cultivate bodhicitta mind. It is still kind of what I call natural or spontaneous aspiring bodhicitta mind. Through effort and meditation, we are trying to cultivate bodhicitta mind. Of course, by that, we are also creating a lot of merit, there's no doubt. But if you are able to cultivate aspiring bodhicitta, true aspiring bodhicitta realizations, then of course that exists even more merit than the merit we create now. The problem for us is at the moment, as much as we create merit, at the same time we destroy them so easily as well. If you have studied and also Shantideva's Guides of Bodhisattva Life in chapter 6, when you talk about patience, at the very beginning, starting of that, why we need patience, because if we don't have patience, then we easily lost our mind, become angry. And how anger destroy, eons of virtues that we create. Just as there is an incredible powerful force of virtues, there is also incredible powerful force of non-virtues. Same way, otherwise, just as there is a very powerful force such as anger to destroy such an incredible amount of virtues, at the same time, there is also a very powerful force from the virtue side, such as aspiring bodhicitta mind, that can create incredible amount of merit or virtues at the same time. I think it is important for us to sometimes when you see those teachings like eons of virtues being destroyed by 1 second of anger, And you see that not only Shandeva, you see that in Chandrakirti's writing, you see that in the sutras, those all are. Sometimes we get little kind of, discouraged, isn't it? We feel like discouraged. When you become discouraged because you see that, then you remember these verses. You remember these verses by cultivating bodhicitta mind for 1 second, how much merit you create. Even though we are unable to cultivate bodhicitta mind all the time, but throughout the day, few times, even it means with the effort, we try to generate the bodhicitta motivations for a few seconds, few minutes, and that much we create such a virtuous merit. So, and that is why I feel, studying is very important, because when you see all of them, then, if you forget this, then you just see that, and then you might be discouraged and become hopeless. See, I have no hope. But when you see that from other side like that, then it kind of, while you are destroying due to your moment of anger, so much of virtues, at the same time, you are also creating that amount of merit through your practice of bodhicitta mind, by cultivating bodhicitta mind. At the same time, we cannot be too careless and relaxing, because I'm too bodhicitta, I'm creating so much merit, so there is enough merit. Because as much as we are creating, at the same time, it's being destroyed because of our, until we reach a point there is no more anger, hatred, and other negative emotions, thoughts such as wrong view and others that can destroy other virtues as well. And next, verse number 18, and within the 18, the first two line and second two line, with the first two line, then it is how to increase the bodhicitta. So now here he spoke about how to keep your bodhicitta mind steady, fast, and not degenerating and deteriorating from it. And not only degenerate, we try to practice so that we can keep steady, fast, and not degenerating, but we need to practice so that it can improve, increase, get better and better, progress more and more, strong and stronger. And so that is where the first two lines of that. Having developed inspiration for enlightenment, constantly enhance it through concerted effort, So again, because all the, spiritual realizations of the bodhisattvas on the path and 10 bhumis, as we progress gradually through one first path to second path, and then one bhumi to another bhumi, and then achieve enlightenment. So all those realizations, spiritual realization, spiritual experience, because they all come through the bodhicitta mind. They all are rooted in bodhicitta mind. They all are rooted in Bodhicitta mind. All those Bodhisattvas realizations, spiritual realizations, and the Buddha's spiritual realization, they all root in that Bodhicitta. Therefore, one must put effort day and night. And be diligent and practice, continue to meditate all the time, and together with the practice of purification, accumulation of merit, and then by seeing the Guru and the Yidam or the Deity inseparable, and combining all this practice together, then you can improve and increase of your Bodhicitta mind, aspiring Bodhicitta mind, stronger and stronger. And the more stronger and stronger it becomes, then, it leads to more and more other spiritual realization. It give birth to many other realizations, spiritual Bodhisattvas realization. So that is we have to remember, we have to approach the path holistically. Just as when you treat your health, is very important to have holistic method, not just taking the medicine, but your lifestyle, your diet, of exercise, if you need to do some kind of movement, exercise, so there are many factors, so many different factors that make you healthy. It is not just one cause. It's not just one cause. There are many different factors that we have to take care together. And when we took all these factors together, then you can be healthy. And that is same with any success of anything, in any field. It's not just one cause, many causes, many factors that come together. Whether it's the growth of the plants, whether it's our happiness, whether it's our health, whether it's a success in whatever, whether it's a spiritual success, whether it's a success in whatever field you are, it doesn't depend on just one cause. It depends on many factors, many causes. Same in our spiritual practice. Same when you're trying to develop the Bodhicitta mind, when you are trying to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind, realization of Bodhicitta mind, and to increase and improve, while one of the main cause is to contemplate and meditate on the Bodhicitta. So whatever different method you might be using, technique you might be using, whether you are using, equalizing exchange set with other method, or whether you are using 7 point of cause and effect method, or whether you are using method that is combined of those two methods. And so there are different techniques, different method of meditation and contemplation to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind and realizations. That is one of the main factors and one of the main cause to cultivate that Bodhicitta mind and increase that Bodhicitta mind. But there are other factors as well that will support for the realization of Bodhicitta to manifest and increase and improve. And those are, you have to combine that with purification, accumulation of merit, and then the blessings of the Guru and Buddhas through the practice of Guru Yoga. And when all this come together, then you will have a better result from your practice meditations. Then you will have better result. If we only focus on just one factor and ignore other factors, then it will be very difficult to have realizations, and that is the experience of many of the great masters, all the good masters, and including Lama Tsongkhapa, in terms of spiritual realization. And so here, same thing. That's where and then, the method to not to forget the Bodhicitta mind in this life and in the futures, in order not to lose and be separated from the Bodhicitta mind, the method is to remember this in this, so in this life and also in other lives, keep the precept properly as explained. So again, as I mentioned before, after we cultivate the inspired Bodhicitta mind, then we take the inspired Bodhicitta vows or the precepts. And after we have taken the inspired Bodhicitta precepts, then or the vows, then there are certain commitment or precept that you keep, in order to our Bodhicitta mind not to be degenerated or lose the Bodhicitta mind or the vows as well in this life and in the future lives. And then in this life there are certain practice so that we don't lose in this life, and then there are certain practice that we don't lose in future lives. And again, without having without going in details, how to guard the vows or the Bodhicitta mind from degenerating this life, then there are, again, one of the practice is, as it's already mentioned, we try to reflect and contemplate the benefit of the Bodhicitta mind, and through that understanding, we try to meditate and contemplate again and again. That is one, And in order to strengthen your Bodhicitta mind so that you don't degenerate, that you don't lose it, you don't be separated from that, then contemplate, Bodhicitta mind 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the night, 6 times a day. We try to contemplate that. And then, in order not to degenerate, then again, we try to practice Bodhicitta mind, even when sometimes when we try to help someone out of compassion, out of Bodhicitta mind, sometimes they can be, instead of appreciative, they can be mischievous and they can be cruel, unkind. And sometimes also you see unkind people, and then there is a danger of losing Bodhicitta mind. So again, not losing and not giving up Bodhicitta mind because of someone's, mischievous, someone's misdeeds, someone's cruelty, and so forth, and then as a way to support the Bodhicitta mind, then we engage into accumulations of 2 collections, the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. So those are the kind of the practices or the method that can help us from losing and degenerating the Bodhicitta mind in this life. And in terms of the method that can help us from losing and degenerating the Bodhicitta mind in the future lives, then there is a practice to refrain from 4 negative dharma or the practice, and engage in 4 virtues or positive practices. Again, that is explained in one of the sutras that is the sutras that is requested by the great Wisdom is Mahakashapa. Mahakashapa is one of the main Buddha's disciples who became the leader of the follower after Buddha passed away. Kashapa was the great elder one. They call that great elder one. And so there is a sutra that has been kind of discussions with him, starting so in that sutra, that's where Buddha explained, 4 different, the method of how to practice or method that can help us from degenerating and losing the bodhicitta mind in the future lives. And so engaging in 4 white or virtuous dharma and reframing 4 black or non-virtuous dharma. So the 4 black or negative dharma that need to be abandoned, is deceiving masters, and teachers, spiritual teachers, spiritual masters, So, spiritual masters like those from whom we receive different set of precepts and vows, and then teachers, who give out instruction, guides, so we have, some from whom we receive, so intentionally deceiving them, is the negative dharma that need to be abandoned, because all the bodhicitta practice, teaching, instructions, and the precept we receive from them, and if we deceive them, then that will be cause to lose that. To lose that. It will be cause to lose that. So therefore we have to abandon, because from whom do we receive all the instruction, teachings, and the precept and the vows? We receive from them. So if we intentionally deceive them, then that becomes cause to lose that. And then, the other is leading others to regret their virtues, So again, when someone is engaging in something virtuous, then again making them to regret that virtues, Maybe someone helps someone, and then we say, oh, you shouldn't have helped that. Why did you help that? For example, just an example. And then that person started regretting, oh, I shouldn't have helped that. I shouldn't have that. So it is something that virtues he or she did with their compassion or kindness, because they wanted to support, they wanted to help, or engage something. And then we say something, and we encourage or we say something that make them regret their virtues. So, because as a bodhisattvas, when you have bodhicitta and when you as a bodhisattva, you should be encouraging virtues all the time, because the virtues is the cause of their happiness. And you are working for the happiness of others. Since the reason to cultivate the bodhicitta mind and the reason to be in the bodhisattva path is to help others to have happiness and cause of happiness. So instead of encouraging them to have cause of happiness, such as virtues, you discourage them and make them regret. So then that becomes cause of losing your bodhicitta mind, and your precepts, in futures. And then, out of anger, then saying bad things to another bodhisattva. Out of anger, saying something bad to another bodhisattva. So again, instead of supporting, instead of encouraging, then we say bad things about another bodhisattvas who has bodhicitta mind. And that become cause to lose our own bodhicitta mind and put the vows in the futures. So again, we should abandon doing that. We should abandon. And since we don't know who is bodhisattvas, who is not bodhisattvas, then we have to be careful not to say any bad things out of anger to anyone. Yeah, especially when you are in a state of anger, frustrations, impatience, hatred. The best is just keep quiet. The best is just keep quiet. As again in Shantideva he explained, in those senses, then we try to become like we try to be like a wooden, not moving, not saying anything. And if you have to say, then you can say later when you are not angry, when you are not frustrated, when you are not impatient. Then you will have better communication and better result. Anything that we're saying when you are angry, impatient, and upset and frustrated, then it doesn't come good. So just keep quiet. And then if you have to say something to someone directly or about someone, you can say that when you are more calm, peaceful, no more anger, impatience, and frustration, then that is better. That's a more healthy way to do that. And then deceiving the sentient beings, that is the third, deceiving out of that, not being a truthful, and deceiving the other sentient beings out of not being truthful, then we are deceiving others. Again, if we do that, again, when we cultivate the bodhicitta mind, when we take the vows, then we take the vows and generate bodhicitta in order to not to deceive, but in order to help and benefit them. So instead, being untruthful and deceiving them, then again, that become cause to lose the bodhicitta mind and precept in the futures, the vows in the futures. So we try to again stop doing that, abandon. So those are the 4 negative dharma, and then 4 positive or white dharma that acts as a antidote to those 4 negative ones. Then the first is abandoning lying intentionally. Abandoning lying intentionally. So when you do that, then intentionally you will not deceive any sentient being. You will not deceive sentient being. You will not deceive your spiritual masters and the teachers. So when you are able to do that, And second is guiding or encouraging others to engage in the bodhisattva path. the Mahayana path or vehicles, encouraging. Instead of making them regret their virtues, but instead we encourage, we inspire others to practice the virtues, not only virtues, to practice the Mahayana virtues, the Mahayana path, the practice. And third one is, seeing, all sentient beings as a Buddha, training to see all as a Buddha. And if we train our mind to see all as a Buddha, and because they all have the Buddha, the potential, so if we are able to see them as a Buddha, then, we wouldn't get angry to them. We wouldn't say bad things about them, At the moment, because we cannot see them as a Buddha, we see them very ordinary beings, with full of faults, full of mistake. And the moment we see that full of mistake, ordinary, full of all negativities, then, it's hard for us to stop our mind from getting upset and angry and not say bad things about them. And then fourth one to practice the White Dharma is being truthful. Being truthful and not deceiving, but instead being truthful, transparent, truthful, Yeah, so that is where it is that to remember it in this life. So we talk about four practice, how to keep the bodhicitta mind and preset from degenerating, from losing them, and then it also in the other lives. In other lives, then abandoning the four negative dharma and engage in 10 positive dharma. So that is the method. That is the tools and method to do that. So, any questions, comments from this so far? Because from now here, I think we are starting.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, back at you spoke of the array of trunks sutra.
Can
you tell us what trunks translates as? What does that mean?
Dongbo, like trunk.
Tree trunks?
The trunk of the tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just the name of that just sutra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other? Yes, please.
Is this from this text or this teaching from Kashyapa about the 4 white and 4 negatives? Is that translated into English? Is that a text that's translated into English?
That itself, I'm not sure. That itself, I'm not so sure. But like those are explained in for example, in Asanga's commentary on the vows, and then he explained that, and those are rooted from that particular sutra of this particular Kashyapa's, that one. So, but the whole sutra itself, whether it has been translated, I'm not sure. Yeah. And even in Tibetan version, sometimes it is hard to find. I've been trying to find the other ones about the trunk, the area of the trunk. even that, because so many volumes and you don't know in which volume it is. There's more than 100 volumes, and within each one volume, there are many different sutras. So it takes, and I cannot just Google and find it like some others, I try to do it in very different, many different Tibetan library and form, and I couldn't find any of them. So the only way I can find is actually go through all the, each of those volume, what sutra are there in each of those volume, and then only then can probably I can. So, yeah. So any others? Because from here, then it start engaging bodhicitta and the vow. So I kind of wanted to leave it and start new sections of the chapter next time. So it might be. So that is where, and also maybe hoping that there is a little bit more interactions. Because a lot of time it become one-sided, just listening. So maybe I can also listen a little bit from you all. Yes. Eloise, you have something?
I just wondered if TNL has the full 100 volumes.
I guess so. I have to make sure. Yeah. I think they should have both sutra and commentaries. I think one side there is the sutra, and one side I think they have the commentaries, which is more than 200 volumes, and sutras more than 100 volumes. Maybe not just sutra, but is all by Buddha sutra as well as from the Tantra that is taught by Buddha himself. Yeah. Yeah, some of them, yeah. Anyway, yeah. And I do have in my not computer or in my iPad, I have all these all the sutras, but you don't know where to find. Today I've been going through one volume and hundreds of different sutras, and just going through each of them, took me more than half hour, and still I couldn't find. Because you have to know exactly which volume. And within one volume, each of those volumes, then there are many, not just one sutra, some of them just one sutra. Like Prasna Paramita is easy to find because they are, but other small sutras, then it can be volume 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's collection of many different sutras. And then in some, there's hundreds of sutras in one volumes, So I was trying to find this sutra today, but I couldn't find. I think maybe I spent more than half hour, and eventually I gave up. I didn't know where to find now. There was one sutra that possibility that it might be because it is a collection of many small sutras. Even that I didn't find, so then I didn't know in which volume to find. So, yeah. Then we can do dedication if there is no. If there is, we can still, yeah. Sorry. Again, I think I'm going to chant in Tibetan, and you can either join with me in Tibetan or recite in English. And I like to chant in Tibetan so that you can also get familiar with the chanting. Gyawadi nyoto ta lama sangye do gyo ne do wa chi kya ma le pa te sa la kwe pa sho jang ju sem jo ren po che ma ke pa na ke ju chi ke wa nyam ba me ba ya kong le kong do pe wa ra sho. Jigden kamde pende ma lu pa kang le chung e sambe ye je no ka den chung me ten zen ja cho la so wa de so tu je lun do sho tu zu chang xin chang gun ja we ten zen yong pe we gun su do wa ra cho sum ko le mo tu tu pa da so do je gun do sha ten sho la ba nu cho sa de do wa la ja wa gun le la pe tin jen je la ya sam xin cho de ri do so chen la ka den ten be kue sha. Thank you much, everyone. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Stay well.
Stay
Be
well.
well. Stay safe. Be well.
Yeah, hope maybe we get some rain. I don't know.
Ah.
Be nice.
Yes.
Thank you, John, for recording.
Yes.